Alright, okay, so Firewall Dragon is good for the game. Good for the game, by the way. Balanced discussion. I don't know how this can... I don't know how anyone can think that, but... Let's see what the argument is.
But no, as long as we have these blue cards in our extra deck, Firewall Dragon definitely needs to exist in some capacity simply because he facilitates the mechanic way too well. He kind of reminds me of something like, I don't know, Level Eater when it came to Synchro Summoning or Glow Up Bulb. Just a very, very intricate part of the mechanic. It's just a very good card that utilizes it and abuses it just well enough in order to actually make it viable for a strategy. Because I believe it was DZeef that said one time, there are plenty of really good cards in this game, but the only ones that everyone plays are the ones that are unfair. If a card is too fair, no one uses it. It doesn't matter if it's really nifty or its effect is cool. If it's like a 1-for-1, it's probably bad. So, in order to really make sure the competitive scene is moving forward, we do need cards like Firewall Dragon that facilitate the mechanic to a broken level to actually kind of keep the game moving forward. Because we want to know the next dumb firewall loop. What is it? We gotta keep buying products.
Firewall is good for the game because it facilitates broken combos. I mean, like, I can't say that's an objectively wrong argument. Like, I guess you're technically right. Like, you know, sure, it's good for the game if the only purpose is to progress the game forward by, you know, going faster and doing unfair things. But then what you're doing is you're setting the premise and argument for a developing, continuing game as, you know, speed and power, whereas that hasn't necessarily always been true in Yu-Gi-Oh! We have had formats that have been slower than the previous one and stuff. So the idea that we have to get faster and faster in order for the game to progress isn't true. And it hasn't always been the case in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And I just don't understand why someone would even want that. Like, why would you want the game to keep going faster and faster and more combo heavy based? And that's the argument he's presenting. It's like the game has to get faster and faster to progress the competitive scene. So Firewall was good at progressing the competitive scene. I probably worded that really badly, but I don't understand why the measurement for progress is faster and more unfair cards. Why is that the measurement that you're using? That's what I don't understand.
To do that, it keeps the game alive, it keeps everything healthy. However, him being abused for degenerate burn loops was certainly not the spirit of the card. So it comes down to whether or not we want to keep Firewall Dragon for the betterment of Lynx and start banning things around him, or just get rid of the problem card. Seems that Konami seems to keep hitting cards around him because they want to keep him in
Well, at least he recognizes that Firewall is the problem card.
The game, and it's probably for the reasons I said. It helps promote the mechanic. Without him, link summoning actually becomes quite difficult, and the extra link.
But it doesn't though. Like, it really doesn't. Like, you can. Links don't become worthless, and they don't just die because Firewall doesn't exist. There are basically every deck in the game has to utilize link summoning. Exactly, it's the easiest mechanic to access, you know? It's not like Pendulum where you can't just throw in some Pendulum cards into your deck. Well, I mean, you can, but I mean, it wouldn't, like, do anything. Like, I guess you could play, like, Archfiend Eccentric if you want, like, some random removal. But in general, overall, you can't just throw in a mini Pendulum engine. I think for the longest period in time that I've ever looked at any competitive deck list throughout the history and span of Master Rule 3, throughout the Pendulum era, there has never been someone just throwing in a Pendulum engine, right? That's never been a thing. Likewise, with links, it's the complete opposite. You can throw in some link cards into your deck. You can throw in some nightmares into your deck. You can throw in some link climbing plays. And while your strategy may not necessarily revolve around link summoning, you can absolutely access them as an addendum for your deck and as a complementary form of strategy for your deck, right? You can Burning Abyss isn't a link deck, but there are strategies that can incorporate a link spam mechanic to them if they so desire. You can play like a standard, very kind of linear Burning Abyss strategy of, making a Beatrice and holding off your opponent with hand traps, or you can play like Malicious and Solkius and just spam out a bunch of Link monsters. Like, Link monsters are very adaptable because of how easy and accessible they are. So this idea that Firewall Dragon is is a monster that does not let you have any sort of link play unless you have Firewall on your deck, I think is wrong. The Nightmares are all very, very good at actually facilitating this. It's a very good engine, and basically every single deck that I have ever played has played a Phoenix or a Cerberus.
You know, it's a little cheesy to have the best part of your mechanic fall into the realm of opening all 5 pieces of Exodia. Yeah, you could technically do it, it'll just never happen because the cards you need just don't exist, or they're just... it's too unlikely to open the God Hand to do it. Having Extra Link be a viable win condition is probably good for the game and good for the mechanic, because otherwise...
What?
Extra Link be a viable win condition is probably good for the game and good for the mechanic.
Extra linking is good for the game. I cannot argue against that. Like, I can say, like, you know, it's solitaire, it's not fun to watch, it's not fun to play against, but like, I can't really come out and just say, like, yeah, that's, you know, that's correct, and if you disagree with it, it's wrong. Like, because for some people, extra linking is fine, because that's a viable win condition. It's in the anime. It's something that's hard to achieve, and it's something, well, maybe not so much with Firewall, but if it's something hard to achieve, maybe if it's done over the course of a couple of turns, I can understand extra linking is fine, maybe, but like, you know, just solitaring for 20 minutes, even then, some people would say, like, well, you know, you should deck build to have a hand trap or something. Like, I can't really, like, give you an argument for why that's bad and wrong. That isn't just very subjective and unique to what I personally think. And if you personally think that Firewall is good for the game, extra linking is good for the game, then, you know, it's just a fundamental clash that can't be resolved there. I don't know.
What would be the point of having it even as an option if it's completely undoable? On the flip side of that, it does seem kind of silly to keep swarming our ban list with cards that are otherwise completely unplayable, like that stupid, Lotus thing. It's just a terrible card. It would never see play. It's in Duel Links and no one uses it.
So after this next ban list, I'm going to do a tally, and I'm going to do a count of every single card currently placed on the Forbidden and Limited list, purely because of Firewall. I'm going to see this next balance is going to be very interesting, very, very interesting, because if they don't hit Firewall, they're going to have to literally ban about 3 or 4 cards just because of Firewall. So yes, I don't think it's very plausible or fair that cards should just be like random cards that are just garbage, like Grapha, like a Assault Core. Like, I don't think these cards should just be, you know, and these decks especially should just become unplayable because of one unfair card in the game. So yeah, looking forward to that. I'm actually curious, how many cards have been just how many cards are on the ban list for no reason other than the existence of Firewall? That's an interesting video. I can't wait to get on that after the next ban list.
But it just happens to accidentally work with Firewall Dragon to create a dumb burn loop. So that kind of thing, is it really okay to keep filling our ban list with a bunch of dumb cards if it means we can keep Firewall Dragon in the game? And I actually am a little unsure about what opinion I want to have on this. I'm kind of in the camp of how Konami's actually dealing with it, which is a little unusual, a little outside the realm of what normal people like, but
normal people
like Firewall Dragon to promote the link mechanic. And honestly, does anyone care that Lotus thing got banned? I didn't care. That other plant thing, did anyone care? I mean, most people didn't even know what it did. They're like, why is this banned? They had to like look it up. Like, the reason why they even know the card exists is because it's that one weird card that got put on the ban list that one time. Sure.
I mean, a lot of people probably are upset that A got limited. A lot of people will absolutely get upset if Grapha has to be banned. A lot of people will be upset. You know, if these are like, because you're hitting full archetypes. You are hitting the heart and soul and center of an archetype. Of an archetype that is irrelevant, of an archetype that isn't good, of an archetype that is not competitively viable. And you're hitting it just because of one card. You know, like how many of them do you, like how many like archetypes are we going to see hit? Like MX Saber Invoker like got hit. If a Nightmare Goblin got hit. You know, these two Assault Core got hit. Like, so many things need to be hit just for Firewall. And I just, you know, why do we, like, it's a joke. Like, you know, if you have to like ask yourself, like, in which logical, like, who wants to see Grapha banned? Like, who wants Grapha banned? Like, when you think of broken cards in Yu-Gi-Oh, you don't think of Grapha, right? Like, why is it on the ban list? Oh, because of this other card. And I find that really unfair to people who, you know, all 3 of the Dark World players who remain in the game. Or in the world, rather. Like, but it's a matter of principle, really. It doesn't matter, like, that it doesn't affect that many people. It's just a matter of principle. And I think that's very sad. I think it's very sad.
It seems a little silly to keep banning weird random cards instead of getting rid of the problem card, because clearly Firewall Dragon is the problem card. But if...
I'm glad he recognizes the problem.
Bad in the sense that it keeps the game moving forward, keeps people buying product, and actually keeps the game alive, maybe it's worth the do-nothing, you know...
Like, Firewall keeps people buying product, I mean... Come on, man! Like... You know what else can sell product? Like, fair and balanced archetypes can sell product. Fair and balanced archetypes sell product. Artifacts sold product. Hands sold product. Curry Bandit sold product. You know? Those are very fair cards. I don't know.
GX era pack filler cards that no one even remembers exists, just staying in tins and going completely unnoticed. But as always with my discussion videos...
Yeah, Invoked sold Fusion Enforcers. Invoked is probably one of the fairest decks ever printed, you know? One of the most versatile and unique decks ever made. And look how much Invoked sold. It probably pushed Enforcers so hard. And, you know, and that deck is very fair. You know, it's such a well-made archetype. That's all Konami has to do. That's all Konami has to do. Just make fair cards, make fair and balanced archetypes, and people will still buy your product.
I actually want you guys to talk about this in the comments below, what you guys think of Firewall Dragon. Try to stay away from the common, oh, it just should be banned opinion. Now, give me a good reason why, as opposed to, like, you know, maybe you really like that Lotus thing. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Remember, guys, if you don't troll the meta, I will see you guys after Thanksgiving.
Okay, well, that's his video. Like I said, other than, well, you know, I see it was mostly a banless discussion. Fair enough. I'm not gonna say he was clickbaiting. I don't think he was clickbaiting. He did present an argument for why he thinks Firewall is good for the game, and he did, you know, do his banless discussion. But the arguments he presented for Firewall were not good. Were definitely not good. I don't think selling product is a good argument for a healthy card. Like, good for the game, what does that mean? Like good for the game in what sense? Good for the game financially? Yeah, sure. Firewall was incredible for the game financially. Awesome. Great. Like, it's sold out tins. It's the most easily, like, sellable cards. Future packs, future archetypes are going to sell pretty well if they're based around the link mechanic because of Firewall. Sure, Firewall for the game financially is great. Does the average player care about how the game is doing financially? Probably to an extent, because, you know, they want to make sure that at least the game is surviving and doing well. But, you know, is a player, like, is my when I read a new archetype, you know, if I'm just your average competitive player, I pick up a new set and I read the new set and I read a new card from the new set and I just think to myself, is the first thing that pops to my mind, oh wow, this archetype looks really fun, I can't wait to try that. This archetype looks really strong, I can't wait to tech this into my other deck, or I can't wait to try this card because it's really it sounds really strong. That's the first thing that comes to my head. It's not, wow, this card is really good, I wonder how it's going to impact the Konami stock market. Does anyone think about that? Because that's not what I think about when I read a card. Maybe some people are worried about Konami's stocks and the financial, you know, sustenance of the game. But generally, when I read a new card, my first thought isn't, wow, this is going to do wonders for the investment banking industry. I don't know. So I always look at it from a gameplay, from fun, you know, how enjoyable it seems. That's what my priority is when I read a card. Not, you know, is it gonna sell fucking product? I don't know. Anyway, I guess that's my analysis of this point there. Thanks for watching.